people who have transcendental moments, people who break through, people who have the wealth, the freedom, when they look back at their life and they see all the days they chose themselves to show up for their meditation, when they look back at those past moments, they're not looking back at the easy meditations. They're not falling in love with the person who had the good meditation. They're falling in love with the person who sat in the fire. They remember those moments where they were like, I didn't give up on me. I believed in myself. I believed there was something on the other side of this feeling. I stuck with it. And all of a sudden it starts to change.
Welcome to Focus Your Mind. The greatest power a person can have is focused mind. That's where all your power is. Let's discover your power together. Before we start, hit the subscribe button and don't miss new videos. Have a great time.
And for some people it takes a little longer than others, but they're on it. And so then when they look back at their past and they see all those times it was hard, and they went a little further, they're going to fall in love with that person. And now their future self, who's already transformed, is drawing their past self to them in love. That's how reality is.
So our future self in the future, or
no, there's a future you that's already exists. You just got to get there. And he's in love with you. And the only way you're going to get there is by you being in love with you.
And being in love in the past.
Yeah, but so then what is love then? So then people think they confuse love with pleasure. Like a manicure or shopping spree, that's not love, that's pleasure. And the more whole we are, the less need for pleasure we have. You sit in the fire. I watched 1,025 people last week transform themselves. In the beginning, I was trying to find the door. I was bouncing off them, I just wouldn't quit. And then they started doing the work. They came up against themselves, they got frustrated, they got impatient. I kept reminding them, their brain's going into high beta, their arousal is driving them further out of balance, and they started tempering the animal. And I took them a little further, and they sat through the fire, and all of a sudden it wasn't about the mystical experience, it wasn't about the wealth, it was about learning the formula.
It wasn't about what they wanted.
It was about overcoming themselves. They're learning the formula on how, in that moment, if they could just relax and keep practicing, that little box begins to expand, and now there's more room for them to relax in the unknown. I stretched them outside of the known, and they survived. And I keep stretching them, and all of a sudden, they're more present. And so they wanted to come to the edge in the next meditation and go a little further. It was no longer me saying you gotta go. They wanted the edge. They wanted to see what was standing in the way between them and their new relationship, them and their healing. What was that thing that I want to remove? I'm going to, if not now, when? Right? So they wanted to take it on because they forgot about their cell phones. We did it during the week of election, so nobody would care about us. They didn't care about the election. They didn't care about any disease. They were immersed, and they retreated from their lives. Now, back to your question. I guarantee you, those people, when they face circumstances in their life now, they're ready for their environment. In fact, they've lowered the volume to so many of those emotions. When people slash out at them or do things, they're going to go, oh, come here. Are you hurting? Get over here. I'm going to give you a hug. Not like, oh, they're not going to do that. They're going to be like, come here. I love you. Get over here. Are you okay? It's just there's not that anymore. They're kind of ready. So the formula then, to answer your question, is brain and heart coherence. And when you're in stress and you're in survival, when you're in danger, the arousal of the stress hormones creates a heightening of our senses, and we become materialists, and we now are focused on the material world, and that's reality now. And when we start trying to control reality and predict it, and we have the perception that things are getting worse, all of a sudden we're shifting our attention to one person, to another problem, to another thing, to another text. And every one of those things, there's a neurological network in the brain. So the arousal of the stress hormones causes the brain to start firing incoherently. And now there's no energy in the brain because the incoherence is diminishing energy. It's waves that are canceling each other out. The brain goes into like this quiescence of no activity, but very little performance. So then we said, okay, let's teach people how to take their attention off of everything known in this memory bank of the known self. the autobiographical self, the artifact of the past. Let's teach them how to go from a narrow object focus on anything material that's known in this three-dimensional reality to broadening their focus, to putting their attention on energy, nothing, space, and going from a convergent focus to a divergent focus, and opening their focus. We started noticing that the brain started to synchronize, the different compartments started to unify, and the brain started functioning in a more holistic state, and the person started feeling more chilled, more poised, more clear. And what sinks in the brain links in the brain. So you start seeing this kind of integration. We can call people on the stage now, and I can say, would you show the audience on a brain scan how to go into gamma? Give me 1 second. Boom, they go right into gamma. Can you show them how to go into alpha, coherent brainwave patterns? Give me a minute.
Is alpha like negative state, or?
Alpha is like that creative state. When the brain starts slowing down analytical processing.
So gamma is what?
It's like super consciousness. That's the big stuff. Yeah, that's
the
like
highest level that your brain can go into.
Yeah, it's a kind of a very fast frequency, but our gamma frequencies that we record in our work is so coherent. Like, let me see how I could say this. When you're in beta, right? We're in beta right now. Your brain is busy integrating all this information. What I'm saying, what you're feeling, the temperature in the room, the lights, your back, everything else. Your brain's got to figure all this out. It's got to create meaning between what's going on out there and what's going on in here. If I said to you, Lewis, I forgot to tell you you're going to take a test today, you would perk up a little bit more, right? The light bulb will get a little brighter. It's mid-range beta. But when you're in high beta, that's when you're really, really out of balance. When you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're impatient, when you're vigilant, that's the brain is in very, very heightened state, and
that's high beta.
High beta. That's
when you're in a negative state.
Yeah, exactly. You're in survival. And people don't think they can control that, so they start analyzing in that state, and they make their brain worse. They get overly focused, overly analytical, and now you got to get beyond that analytical mind to get into the operating system to change those unwanted habits and behaviors. So when you disconnect from your environment and you close your eyes and there's less stimulation coming in, we play music in the background, you're not eating, you're not smelling, you're not tasting, you're not feeling, there's less sensory information. Naturally, this mechanism starts to slow down, and so there's less information, and you go into alpha, and you cross the analytical mind. And what separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind is the analytical mind. So now, you're suppressing the analytical mind that's saying you can't, it's too hard, the voice goes away. And in alpha now, we're not looking for any kind of alpha, we're looking for coherent alpha. So as they open their focus and they sense space, the act of sensing and feeling causes them to stop thinking and analyzing. So you start seeing energy leave the neocortex, right? If they do it really well and the body starts to fall asleep, or it feels so comfortable that it can rest in the present moment and let it almost fall asleep, and you're still conscious and awake. Now you're in theta. Now that's a hypnotic state.
Your body's like vibrating almost.
Yeah, the door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is wide open. It's very programmable. Very programmable.
What should we be saying or thinking?
You're not doing anything.
You shouldn't be thinking
Now,
anything.
the formula is when you sense, you'll watch, we do this naturally when we go to bed at night.
Yes.
But now we're just taking you down the steps so you know the terrain, how to get there. In theta, when you're in that state, you can reprogram, you can rewrite the program. It's easier because you're out of this thinking brain.
So we shouldn't be thinking to reprogram, or just
You won't be thinking, you'll be rehearsing.
Rehearsing.
You'll see yourself doing something.
What should we rehearse?
Whatever you want. What do you want? You want to be an excellent handball player?
Yeah.
You want to be the top?
Yeah, yeah.
You got to rehearse.
So you visualize what you want to create.
Yeah, you imagine. But it's better to do it when your body is very relaxed. Or better yet, you forgot about your body. That's a better way to say it. Yeah. So then, when that theta happens, people are usually sitting like this, looking at the television, just before they go to bed at night. They're half awake and they're half asleep, and they're telling them you need a flu shot. They're telling you need this drug, you have this problem.
Eat this food, yeah.
It's going in. The analytical facilities are in the back seat. They're getting programmed to make that choice. They're getting programmed in some way. So they're suggestible to information. So now, you could be suggestible to your own auto-suggestions or information that you would want to rewrite as a program. So if you said in alpha or theta, I'm not happy with how I did with my kids today. I need another shot at it. And you're relaxed and you're present and you start reviewing how you're going to be with them. I guarantee you start installing the hardware there.
Right.
You start rewriting the program and you're so present that you can go through it. And you go through it the next time, it's a little easier.
Yeah.
You go through it the next time, it's a little easier. You go through it the next time, your mind starts to wander, you catch yourself, you come back,
Right.
you do it again. Well, what are you doing? You're rewriting the program and installing it, firing and wiring, right? So you can't do that in beta because you're too distracted, right? How about the art of life?
Yeah.
I mean, relationships, job, whatever it is. Like
Money,
like
whatever.
people always go to the things that are easy. Like in our work, we pick the ones that you don't want to look at. We're going to go for that first because we take care of that. The rest gets easy, right? So then when there's an integration and people are in theta and they know how to regulate, then something crazy happens. So then when that door opens and their eyes are closed and they're not getting information from the environment, not from the TV, and you teach them how to tune into frequency and energy, and frequency carries information and they're in theta, and the brain starts to process in latent systems that energy and that frequency and transduces it into a mystical, profound experience in imagery. The arousal that takes place in the brain is gamma. They're having a very full-on sensory experience, but not with their senses. In other words, whatever's going on, it's more real than you and I sitting here, right? So imagine if your senses were heightened right now by 50%. Everything you're seeing, hearing, smelling, your awareness of the environment would be heightened, right? Awareness is consciousness.
Yeah.
So now we see these coherent alpha patterns lead to these coherent theta patterns, and these waves are so orderly that that wave of theta is a carrier wave, and then here comes gamma. That energy just bursts up into the brain from the body, the gates open up, and the arousal is not fear. The arousal is not pain. The arousal is not aggression and anger. The arousal is ecstasy. But here's the deal. This is alpha. If we had 100 people in the room and we were doing this, pretty easy to clap like this, right? That's coherence. We're rhythm, and that's good. Then if we went in to theta, it would be a lot slower, right? There's very little neocortical activity, so it's easy to create coherence there. But when you go to gamma, it's like this. Now try to imagine everybody, 100 people doing that. This is how orderly the neurons in your brain are. They're clapping so fast and they're all in rhythm. So how would you describe that kind of orderliness except bliss? How would you describe wholeness? What is it? I don't know, love, whatever that is. That arousal is so outside of normal. It's not a little bit of gamma. It's not a lot of gamma. It's not a lot of gamma. It's a supernatural amount of gamma. It's way outside of normal. Now that person is touching the divine. That person is touching that unified field. Their consciousness is merging with the consciousness of the unified field. There's no separation. They are connected, and the arousal, the interaction with that energy, they're taking something with them. And sometimes there's a biological upgrade. There's the eczema, it's gone. There's the Parkinson's, it's gone. There's the blindness, it's gone. There's the deafness, it's gone. There's the stage 4 cancer, it's gone. It's an immediate biological upgrade. Now, the energy now, to finish this, is not in the neocortex. Lights are out here. You're gone. Lewis is gone. There's no longer an identity called Lewis. The inner world is profoundly real, and the autonomic nervous system, the midbrain, the limbic brain, that's controlling all your automatic functions. When you're in stress, that autonomic nervous system is dysregulated. It's out of balance. Now you're getting so much order, so much rhythm. That autonomic nervous system's touching every single cell in your body, every tissue, every organ, every system, and it's jiggling the cells, and the cells are getting new information coherently. And so you see the person get a biological upgrade. Now, you can only talk around this. You have to have the experience, but people who have the experience will have the biggest smile on their face because they realize it was always available to them. So the fundamental question is it worth it? That's the real question, because if you're willing to make those changes every day before you start your day, and you have this kind of arousal coming from within you, I guarantee you won't be looking in your outer environment to find those feelings. You'll be looking within you.